Hey there, this is Nate. Today I'm going to be discussing Nikon lens terminology. I got a comment on one of my videos from a viewer who was brand new to photography and was very confused as to all the symbols and phrases that come on Nikon lenses. What she essentially did was copied the whole entire nameplate from one of Nikon's lenses and said, I don't understand any of this. What does it mean? Well, this is what I'm here for, so I'm going to grab a couple of my lenses and just discuss all the little symbols and letters and all the little bits of stuff on there so you guys can all know what those refer to. Okay, so the lens I've picked for us to look at is my 7200 f2.8. All the information you're going to want to find out about your lens is on this golden plate right here. So let's just take these one at a time. Nikon, right there, obviously it's the brand. ED. ED means extra low dispersion, is shorthand for that, which is a special type of glass that Nikon uses in its lenses. And it does all kinds of fancy things like handles such things as chromatic aberration, which is bits of stray color on the outlines of your image, and is generally used to improve the quality of the lens and ultimately the quality of your pictures. Okay, next we have, right there, there we go, perfect. It says AFS. What AFS is, it refers to the lens's autofocus system. Older lenses would just say AF. And the difference between the two of those is an AF lens would require the in-camera body screwdriver motor to run the lens. This one, however, has its autofocus motor built into the body. So, as you can see on here on the back, these are all screws right here. This is the little pin where the lens locks to the camera body. There is no screwdriver back there. So this lens will focus on any digital camera Nikon makes, and should focus well on any film camera within, I don't know how many years back because I don't know a whole lot about Nikon's film cameras. But any digital camera you buy, which includes the D40, D60, D5000, D3000, will all be able to work with this lens. Okay, our next hieroglyph here is this one right here, VR. VR stands for, if we go a little farther up, vibration reduction. You can see it right there. What that is a system built into this lens where one of the lens elements actually has a motion detective sort of motor on it, and when you're taking a picture and your camera shakes, as it does because since this is a big heavy lens, and since it's a telephoto lens, the slight natural movement in your hands can affect your image sharpness if you're shooting at a low shutter speed. And what vibration reduction does is it senses those jiggles in your hand and it actually moves around a bit of the lens inside there, which counteracts that camera shake. So if you have a big heavy lens like this and you're shooting at a slower shutter speed, it can be very useful to have. Okay, the next bit we have here is the word Nikkor. Nikkor just simply refers to the division of Nikon that makes the lenses. There's no real trick to that. Typically, if you're referring to a Nikon lens, it's a Nikkor. There were a couple other ones back in the day, but I won't really get into those. But nowadays, they're all called Nikkor lenses, and Nikkor lenses are traditionally superior to most other camera manufacturers' lenses. Nikon's trademark is in its lenses. They have the best quality glass, this, that, and the other. So if you're looking for a camera system and you're considering Nikon, do know that Nikon is widely believed to have the best lenses available. So maybe that can help you out a bit. Okay, so our next bit here is this right here, 70 to 200 millimeters. What that refers to is the amount of zoom you have on the lens. So as you can see right here, it says you can see the 70mm mark, and as I zoom it, turn this ring here, it'll go to 200mm. And our last one here is 1 to 2.8 G. And what that refers to is simply the aperture selection you will have on this lens. When it says 1 to 2.8 G, essentially what that means is you can zoom anywhere on this range, and the lens, if you choose to go down that far, will stay at f2.8. And that's called a fixed aperture lens. A floating aperture lens, however, would say something like, I don't have my 18 to 55mm kit lens with me, but if I did, this would say 1 to 3.5-5.6 G. And that's because as you zoom that lens, the aperture will shrink, which naturally means you get less light into your camera, and is one of the reasons why I bought this lens, if not the only reason why I bought this lens, because f2.8 is a very bright aperture, and it stays there throughout the entire zoom range of the lens, which is very nice. And the G in the 2.8 G right there simply means that you do not have what is called an aperture ring right here on the back of the lens. In the olden days, cameras used to have a ring, not unlike a zoom ring, except it had notches in it. It would just, you'd have to click it, where you would physically turn this and select your aperture. With this lens, it's all done within the camera body. This does present a significant disadvantage, though, because these cameras are borderline useless with a manual focus camera, because you can't change anything in there because they were based solely on manual focus and manual selection of aperture by means of this zoom ring. You could absolutely still use this lens on a manual focus camera, however, you would be limited to the very slow aperture of f22, that teeny little pinprick in there. Okay, so now I've switched over to my 24 to 70mm lens, and as you can see, much of the information here is the same. We've got the Nikon nameplate, we've got AFS, Nikkor, 24 to 70mm, 1 to 2.8 G ED. Essentially all the same things that were on my 70 to 200mm lens. However, there is one new thing on this lens. It's something that Nikon has just started to do with its more expensive lenses. This N right here, which stands for nano crystal coating, which is a new lens coating that Nikon uses on its lenses. And apparently it's supposed to increase resistance to flares and ghosts and stuff like that on your lenses. And to some extent it's true, because this is a very good lens in terms of those things. However, this coating is only available on one surface in this lens, so can't really speak to how much good it really does, but I'm sure it does some good, otherwise Nikon probably wouldn't have bothered to put it in. And that's the only real difference I can see that this lens has over the other one. Okay, so there is one more thing you will commonly find on your lenses, and that is a little insignia somewhere, again on that nameplate, that would read DX. Those lenses do not have the word DX because DX refers to the sensor size format that the lens is corrected for. Those lenses will not work properly on Nikon's FX line of cameras, which means the full frame sensor, the 35mm sensor, which include the D700, D3, D3X, and D3S. If there are any other little phrases that you come across on a Nikon lens, please feel free to mention them to me and I will address them. That's all I can think of off the top of my head, but I may very well have missed a couple. So if you find one that I missed, let me know and I will get right back to you about it. My name is Nate, and I hope you've enjoyed this explanation of Nikon lens terminology.